Hi, I'm Barb.
And I'm Alex.
And we're Enchanterium. In this video, we will be continuing what has become a bit of a series now. As the weather warms up outside, we'll be making a spring-themed fox. Let's go!
When I think about spring, I see a lot of plants and trees coming back to life. So that's why, as a base for this project, we chose cedar wood, who has a wooden sculpt on the body. I always wanted to customize this doll, but the wooden puppet-like body was never fitting the theme until now. We have a wise, ancient Kitsune spirit of fall, Akino, and magical gentle winter fox, Sylvie. So the natural progression is to make a spring fox. I want this one to be more human-looking, but still keeping the fantasy vibe, and a touch of Japanese folk aesthetic. I'm preparing the head by removing all the parts that can be customized. I really like Cedar in the Ever After High cartoon, and her original makeup is super pretty, but I have a different plan for her face. But let's take care of the fox part first. Akino has her ears fixed to the head, Sylvie has them magnetic, and this time I want ears on pins, as I want them on top of the hair. I need something strong, easy to sand, and quickly drying, so the best option is to use epoxy sculpt. I mixed two parts together and started working on the base layer using metal tools and my fingers. After the first layer has dried, I'm applying the second one, this time trying to make it look as smooth as possible. When the clay has hardened, I can trace the placement and remove the ears. To add a bit of springish and fantasy detail, I'm going to make deer antlers that will also resemble tree branches. I'm making them out of wire, but I only have a thin one, so to make the armature strong and stable, I'm twisting it like crazy. I'm adding volume using hot glue. I thought it would be a good idea to cover them with a layer of silk clay to make the surface more smooth, but it turned out to be a bit too thick. I just filled all the gaps with more hot glue and left it without any clay. I couldn't find if there are dark brown foxes, but she's a fantasy creature and she can have her fur in any color, right? I'm going to use this cold brown material. It's either viscose, soy or silk. I can't remember which one, but it's super soft and has surprisingly long fibers. The tail needs some kind of armature and I'm making it again from a twisted wire. Akino had 9 tails like a traditional kitsune. Sylvie has only 1 tail, but a big one, and this girl will be a 3-tailed fox. I'm wrapping brown yarn around the wire to have a better grip and more volume. It looks like a very skinny bird leg. I'm gluing the wefts one by one, starting from cream. To make it a bit more colorful, I added a layer of yellow and green. The yellow wefts are leftovers from making Riku from Kingdom Hearts 2, and these dyed green wefts were left after making Nia, another owner of a fluffy tail. In Enchanterium, nothing goes to waste. And that's how it looks after gluing the brown viscose, or soy, or silk. It's going to be a magnetic tail, so we don't have to make holes in the clothes. The ends need a little trim, as foxes have full and thick tails in a round shape. I was going to use the other rectangular magnet, but they were so strong I couldn't separate them. We didn't have another long one, so I'm placing 2 weaker magnets next to each other on her back. And with that, the tail is ready. Now, let's take a quick break to hear about today's sponsor, Skillshare.
Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for anyone who loves learning and wants to explore their creativity and learn new skills. Invest in yourself and your personal growth. Every now and again, I rediscover hand lettering, especially when I'm feeling anxious. It's a great activity for me to just sit down in silence and relax while practicing. Since I was a bit rusty on the basics, I really enjoyed a Skillshare course, Intro to Beautiful Hand Lettering in Procreate by Tila Cunningham, to catch up to speed with lettering in Procreate. If you too have a specific skill you're trying to brush up on this year, Skillshare is the perfect place to start. From graphic design, photography to freelancing and more, you can find classes that will match your goals and interests. 1,000 people can get a free 1-month membership on Skillshare by clicking our link in the video description. Thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and let's carry on with the custom. Since the other 2 foxes we made had Asian-influenced clothes, we decided to continue the trend. With this pink jacquard fabric from my stash, I will be making a short kimono or yukata with shorter sleeves. I'm using the same pattern as for Akino, which I got from Requiem Art Designs, but I shortened it and chose the short sleeve option. I'm piecing it as follows. First, the seam at the back. Next, the little collar, which is folded in half. And the sleeves. I cut little notches to align the sleeves correctly. I didn't want to have visible stitching on the kimono, and in this small scale, the hems are sometimes tricky to sew, so I used fusible tape to make all the hems. I'm pressing everything through a cotton cloth to make sure there's no damage to the jacquard. Then, it was time to fold the kimono along the shoulders and sew the side seams and sleeves. From my understanding, the sleeves can be sewn either from the front or from the side, and for this one I closed them in the front, although I regretted that a bit later. After flipping it to the right side, I put it on the doll to gauge where I should hem the bottom. I went for a very short length, and I know this may not be the traditional kimono style. Lastly, I hand-sewed another white collar to the kimono to fake the underlayer kimono that's supposed to be worn under the colorful one. The obi belt is pretty straightforward, and I used some lime green fabric for that. Next, I am making another kimono, or rather a haori, which is a garment worn over a kimono. Its construction is basically the same as the kimono I made, with the difference in the sleeves. I chose to make these open in the front, so the kimono sleeves can peek through. With both of these together, I can stuff the pink sleeves through to the haori sleeves, and this is how they look together.
Time to take care of the accessories. I'm painting the ears cool brown to match the tail. The branch-like antlers also need a few coats of paint. I'm starting with brown and gradually dry brushing the surface with lighter colors. This doll has the most unique body in the Ever After Highline, so I just have to enhance the wooden sculpt. I did it on legs, hands and neck. Now let's finally paint her face. I did a quick digital concept sketch to know where I'm going and started drawing. I really like her original face and decided to keep the shape of her previous lip makeup, but make it more soft looking using pastels. The fall and winter foxes both had some kind of painted decoration on her faces, and she will be no exception. I did the sketch with a white pencil to make a light base for the right colors. I'm using watercolor pencils, chalk pastels and acrylic paints and spraying the head with MSC sealant whenever I feel like the surface doesn't take more pigment.
Honestly, this is the best first layer I have ever done. I like all the things I did, and it's so complex and so detailed. I usually do like 5 lines on the first layer. I hope this is my new workflow.
I want her to look cheerful, full of hope and life, just as spring brings life to the nature. I imagine her being the youngest and the most fragile of our seasoned foxes, but she's stubborn and her positive attitude makes everybody feel better. I chose light yellow for the eyes to fit with the wooden details on the skin and bright pink for the eyeshadow. Both of these colors need a few layers to have a good opacity and brightness. After recreating the lashes, I'm adding white details in her eyes. I know it doesn't work like that in reality, but sometimes I like to paint symmetrical catch lights. It makes the doll look more stylized and cute. I decided that her face, and head in general, will be the most busy part of this doll, and I'm adding a few tiny dots on the waterline and also enhancing the lashes with white paint. And here she is, our sweet spring girl. I have to admit, I was too lazy to make more brown wefts, and I have these black wefts left after making a kino, so a few bottom layers of her hair will be black. Then I added 2 green strands to marry the hair with the fur on the tails. Then on top goes the smooth and soft brown viscose/soy/silk. I bend the parting weft and glue it on top at the center. When I'm using nylon, I have to hot press the fiber to keep the shape, but this material is very easy to style just using fingers. Then the second weft on the other side and we have a full head of hair. In my concept sketch I drew bangs, but it would cover all the work I did on the wooden forehead, so I'm changing it into no bangs hairstyle. No bangs. I'm leaving 2 strands in the front and putting the rest of the hair into a ponytail. Let's check how it works with the animal features and shorten the front hair. Because of the color palette of the fur, she looks more like a wolf to me, but well, the addition of the antlers make her more fantasy looking, so I guess the accuracy doesn't really matter. She is spring, and spring is flowers. I imagine her being a spirit of all vegetation in the spring, but her favorite plant is a cherry tree, so she absorbed the look of it. So to decorate the antlers, I asked Barb to make some flowers. She cut them out on our Cricut machine in various sizes. Looks like she had some trouble picking them up. I added some details to the flowers with paint, and now I'm gluing them to the branches. Then I'm adding a bit of green 3D fabric paint to make tiny leaves. I don't want shoes this time. She's a free spirit, and the wooden texture is too interesting to cover it with shoes. I added wire to imitate some kind of vines growing on her body. I tried the green and yellow wire, but it just didn't look good, so the regular silver wire it is. I glued tiny shiny flowers so the legs won't look too empty compared to the top part of the doll. For a magical accessory, we're going simple this time. A bottle full of cute and sparkly thingies. Mostly flowers, pebbles, and tiny orbs in pink and green. It's going to be attached to the obi belt at her waist. And with this little detail, the doll is ready.
This is how she turned out. I'll be honest, she has been a very spontaneous project, as we're dealing with a bit of an art block on the other projects that we're doing right now. We're even struggling to name the dolls these days, so we asked our mom what we should name her, and we landed on Lisa, as Lis means fox in Polish. I guess this means that sometimes in the future we will be making a summer fox.
If you were to make a summer fox character, what would they be like? Let us know in the comments down below, because we don't really have an idea yet. Please help, send help.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram for some sneak peeks and subscribe for future videos. Have an enchanted day, and we'll see you next time. Ding, 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 ding. Bye!
I glued tiny, shiny flowers, tiny, shiny, to the legs, and the legs. One looked too empty.